Well, it's Thursday evening and it's our last show of the work week. And we're leaving it actually a bit calmer tonight than we were at this time last night when the radars were busy. But we're going into a stretch of Friday through the weekend and into early next week, which will feature warm temperatures, humid conditions, and maybe some thunderstorms from place to place and from time to time. But before we get to that, you get to have us right here on tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which you can support by doing your Amazon shopping using our referral link. It's pinned to the top of the chat board. It's also on the descriptor to this podcast on YouTube, just underneath the title. Just search for your stuff, and when you shop and buy, Amazon throws us back a little bit of coin for sending you there, and it's not out of your pocket. It doesn't cost you one extra cent. So all you got to do is click on the link and do your Amazon shopping via our referral link. And we appreciate very much those of you who have done so because it keeps the podcast, the live version of the podcast, commercial free. And Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link for this is also on the descriptor to this podcast, right underneath the Amazon link. But it's this link is not pinned to the top of the chat board, so you have to go look for it. But anything you purchase from the Tempest website, make sure you use that coupon code that we have, Summer 2025, because if you do, you will get.
You'll get 10% off,
You will.
Joe.
Yes. So I actually had some downpours today, so it was nice to see water coming down from the sky instead of huge tree limbs like I had yesterday, which still mind boggles me because we didn't weren't it was sunny at the time and there wasn't a breath of wind. So anyhow, that was yesterday. Nothing like that happened today. We did get some rain here. And there was some heavy rain in South Jersey with some flash flooding that went on there. And there's stuff on the radar just offshore, but areas inland today were a bit more on the quiet side.
I just found out, by the way, Joe, this is something that Joe and I were talking about literally just before we came on the air. I came in a short while ago. Renata and I were doing some gardening. We found innumerable little white bugs on our green leaves. And I said, "What are those, aphids?" And you said aphids were green, not white.
Right.
Well, anyway, I did some searching, and the best I can find, small white bugs on green leaves are likely either mealy bugs or white flies.
Oh, mealy bugs. Oh, just the name is alone makes you want to go, ew.
Yeah, exactly.
And what's the other
Well, anyway,
choice? What's the other choice?
white flies.
Oh, okay. Um,
I don't
and
think
what?
they're white fly. I don't think they're white flies though, but well, I don't know what they are. They could be mealy bugs. They could be white flies. Anyway, we did considerable cutting up until showtime tonight, and we're going to toss a lot of these with filled with these white things into the woods tomorrow. But you know, anyway, Renata speculates it might be due to the unusually high levels of humidity that we've had in
Well, it could
recent
be.
weeks. You know, I
And
don't
and
know.
and speaking of which, I was looking at the dew point forecast day by day um, through the first part of next week. I did notice that on Monday the dew points actually dropped to 70. Okay, Monday or Tuesday, maybe it was Tuesday, that the dew point gets down to 70 or 71 as opposed to 74 or 75. At least you're going to get a bit of a temperature break because the winds from here on in through Sunday are going to be coming in with an ocean component to them. So that's going to help at least to hold the temperatures down. And maybe you'll have a little extra cloud cover, but from time to time. But overall, it's just going to be a very muggy weekend and start of next week.
Yeah, I don't see really much change until hopefully later on next week into next weekend. Not this weekend, but next weekend. That's when Renata has her German festival with the German club locals. And I said, the last thing you want is to walk around in 85 or 90-degree temperatures and dew points in the 70s. But I think, Joe, by late next week, we may actually see a noticeable drop in the dew point. Maybe not necessarily getting abnormal, especially cooler, but at least bring the dew points down. I mean, this
Listen,
humidity
if
is
you
just
can bring the dew points down from where they are now, even if they get down to the mid 60s, it'll feel better.
yes, because we humans we are very very we adapt very quickly, and you're absolutely right. So if we adapt to a 70-degree dew point, and you're right, even a 5 or 6 degree drop will make it feel a lot better out there. But I'm talking about maybe temperature dew point temperatures maybe by late next week or the following weekend. I'm talking about the weekend of the 19th and 20th. We might see actually dew points at or even below 60.
Well,
I
that'd
might
be
be
nice.
pushing. I might be pushing that a bit, but like I said, anything is better than what we've been dealt in recent days
Oh,
around
I
here.
know. Welcome to everybody tonight on the chat boards. Good to see all the regulars here, and welcome to those of you who are watching in the background tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. That's a good place to be too. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss us because we are here Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. Fridays and Saturdays are off days, so Joe and I can recharge. But if there was a storm going on, you could rest assured that we would be adding programming and letting you know. And if you like the show, of course, hit the like button, which is a good thing to
Yes.
do. All right. So, as I said earlier, a bit less busy tonight in the world of showers and thunderstorms. I think it's one of those times where you just got to stick them in the forecast, and I basically am just carrying the chance that there could be a some scattered thunderstorms running around tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday. It's probable that most people won't see them, but I think it should be cautioned that in the event that somebody does get under a thunderstorm, there's with the atmosphere so saturated with so much moisture and no real push to get them out of the way that it could mean for some very localized potential flash flooding that could happen if the wrong thunderstorm forms at the wrong place and the wrong time.
Well, I would agree. I think, as I just told you, I think Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you would have to be most unfortunate to get a shower or thunderstorm to pop up. It's a CYA forecast to just merely mention the possibility because you never know. Something late in the day or early in the evening could pop up literally out of nowhere. I think in the lower Hudson Valley, your best chances of getting wet, if you get wet at all in the next few days, will be from the I-84 corridor north and west. Not to say that something might pop up elsewhere, but uh, the shower threat or the threat of thunderstorm and shower activity, it looks to me, is going to be few and far between. By the way, I had yesterday, I had mentioned to Renata that today there was an ongoing threat of showers and storms here in our area, and we didn't get a single drop, not a drop of rain, a pellet of ice, nothing. And he said, "So what happened?" And I look at the radar. It looked like we had shower activity to our north, and especially so a swath of showers and embedded thunderstorms off to the south and southwest of us. But where we were, eh.
And that happens from day to day. It could be there, not there one day, and there the next. So you really do have to, cover yourself. Uh, we'll check out what's going on around the country at the moment. We actually do have some heavier thunderstorm activity going on in the Carolinas right now, and there are flash flood watches up from southern Virginia through much of central North Carolina and even parts of eastern North Carolina. Mainly along and north and west of I-95 is probably the best way to look at it. We also have the first flash flood watches up for northeastern Illinois, for some counties in western Iowa. There's a tornado watch that's in play right now in northeast Nebraska, and a severe thunderstorm watch in eastern Colorado, western Kansas, and southwest Nebraska. Some heat advisories up in the west, also in parts of New Mexico, and in a handful of counties in Oklahoma. And you can see the lightning strikes here that are going on this evening. Again, far less than yesterday when we had that long line of storms that ran from central New Jersey all the way down into the Carolinas. Today, a little more scattered in nature, a bit patchy as you get down into North and South Carolina. There's some missing frames here, which is why you're seeing that white flash. And you can also see some thunderstorms firing up in the north parts of the Central Plains, which is where we have severe weather risk tonight. But here's on the radar. Yeah, there's still stuff over Cape Cod and just east of Montauk offshore. There was some heavy rain in southern New Jersey for a good part of the day. That's gone out. The one thing that did happen today, at least for you, Joe, in eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England, that between that and cloud cover, that did help to at least keep the temperatures from they kept the temperatures from rising too much.
Yeah, and well, anything that helps to keep the temperatures down, I think. Although again, I would prefer if I had my choice or if I had my druthers be seeing a drop in the temperature or a drop in the dew points, I would pick the latter. Certainly I've had far more. I think today was like what in the tri-state area. This seems like this was like the eighth or ninth consecutive day where the dew point temperatures were flirting with or going above 70. It really has been ridiculous out
Well, you
there.
got to go back to the 4th of July, really, the 4th and 5th. So it's the 6th, 7th, 8th. It's actually the 5th day where we've been dealing with the super high dew. You've been dealing with the super high dew points.
It's all melds together, I guess.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good. You see, radars are busier in North Carolina, particularly in South Carolina. We have a few severe thunderstorm warnings there. Also in southern Georgia, a little bit of activity in southeast Louisiana and southern Mississippi. Some widely scattered stuff in Ohio and in parts of upstate New York and in northern New England. Meanwhile, around the great around northeastern eastern Iowa. We've got a couple of working tornado warnings right now, a bunch of severe cells there, and also some severe weather just to the west of Chicago, with a flash flood warning well north and west of Chicago, but right there on the Illinois-Wisconsin state line. And we're seeing some cells also in the state of Wisconsin. A second disturbance is moving through Nebraska and into western Iowa. We're seeing some severe thunderstorm warnings in the yellow boxes. And then you go to West Kansas and into Colorado from mostly east of I-25. You have some stronger thunderstorms and downpours going on there and into southeastern Wyoming. Storm Prediction Center in that area. We have the severe thunderstorm watch in eastern Colorado and western Kansas and Nebraska. And there's the tornado watch in the red box, eastern Nebraska into extreme northwest Iowa, and a small area of enhanced risk. The Northeast has a marginal risk up in upstate New York, and in northern Vermont has a small, slight risk area, but not seeing too much happening there on the radar at the moment. And the Southeast in an area of marginal risk. Now, tomorrow, which is going to cover the period Friday into Saturday morning, we have a slight risk northern Missouri, southeast Iowa, northern Illinois, southernmost Wisconsin, northernmost Indiana, and southern Michigan. And that comes also with a 2% tornado risk. But I think the bigger risk here, Joe, is going to be the potential for flash flooding. The WPC has a slight risk, which is 15 to 40% chance from eastern Nebraska across into northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin. But they did mention that depending on what happens tonight, they may have to change that and up that to a moderate risk, forecasting rain totals of 3 to 5 inches, which, as we all know, in these convective situations, could wind up being much higher than that in some local areas. In the east, again, because of the humid air mass and always that chance that a thunderstorm pops up and doesn't do what it's supposed to do. Why is this map? I'm just noticing for some reason. Oh, I see. Okay, so this is actually, let me just correct this. This is through tomorrow morning. Okay, so this is from now and overnight, where we're seeing what WPC has. I'm so used to SPC updating their maps multiple times a day. So here's Friday into Saturday. And yes, we do have, excuse me, we do have slight risk. This is where they talked about for tomorrow that this could go to a moderate risk in northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, Iowa, Missouri, and eastern Kansas. But you see the slight risk that's up and down the East Coast from Massachusetts down to Georgia and west to Louisiana. It's on the idea that if a thunderstorm pops up in any one particular spot and just decides to sit there for a while, you could wind up with some localized flash flooding. You really can't rule it out with how saturated the air mass is in the eastern part of the United States.
And again, the short-term models from Friday through the weekend show very little chance of any precipitation in the immediate tri-state New York area, and yet the folks over at WPC have much of lower New York State and also a part of central and southern New England in the marginal risk for excessive rainfall. And that again is, as what we just mentioned, it doesn't really matter if the showers are few and far between. If you happen to be unfortunate enough to be underneath one of those rather condensed cells of precipitation, you could pick up a whole heck of a lot of rain in a very short interval of time. Meanwhile, somebody 5 miles down the road from you sees absolutely nothing but an ominous looking sky. So you have to play that game probably for the next few days. That there is that chance. It's not a big chance, but there is a chance that you may run into a heavy downpour. And with the humidity as high as it's been, the dew point temperatures above 70, it's worth putting in regardless of whether or not the showers are few and far between.
And tomorrow, I'm sorry, for Saturday into Sunday, WPC has marginal risk from South Carolina all the way up to through New York State, except Western New York, Vermont into New Hampshire and Massachusetts and Northwest Connecticut. And a big area of slight risk appears across much of Central and West Texas, although it looks like this is a little bit north and west of where everything happened back over the weekend in Central Texas. So hopefully the rains will stay away, or if they do come, they won't be uh, they won't be anything catastrophic like what we just saw. Clearly, nobody wants that. And there's your rainfall forecast from WPC for maybe as much as several inches from West Texas northeastward up through Iowa and northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin, up and down the East Coast, less on the coastal plain, but just inland, anywhere from a half inch to some areas of an inch and a half, not out of the question. And again, it's convection, so we know that the amounts could wind up being higher. Also, wet weather in Florida, several to 6 inches for much of Florida for the next 7 days. So pretty wet there. I don't really see too much happening here. If you want to go look at the upper air first, Joe, with respect to the coming days, we're just kind of on this edge of this westerly flow. You get these little ripples that move along. There's a trough that's swinging through the northern plains and in the western lakes. That's going to be the severe weather producer that we've been talking about for Friday and Saturday. And that lifts, instead of dropping or diving into the northeast, it's lifting up way to the west. So we're still in a warm flow with higher pressures off to the east in the ocean. And I'm just taking it through next week. There's a little bit of troughing here in the eastern part of the United States, but it's sort of in between. It's the empty space between two ridges. Another strong trough moves middle of next week across Montana and Wyoming, and then eventually through the Dakotas. And this one too lifts up pretty far to the north. And then moving through next weekend, again, still on this edge of a westerly flow in the upper atmosphere, no real Canada connection. And then another trough tries to drop in around the 23rd, 24th, only to lift up to our north and west. So on and on it goes. I mean, you want something to make some emphasis and drive a trough down into the Great Lakes and into New England. But that's not going to happen. So, if you get a dew point break, it probably will be on the, it'll be a break, but it'll be a relative break.
Right. It's, if you're looking for cool, dry Canadian air coming in, that ain't coming. That doesn't seem to be in the cards. But all I would ask for, if anybody up there is listening to me, all I would ask for is a slight bend in the upper level winds to the west and west northwest to bring in that somewhat drier and not quite as humid airflow as what we have been enduring over the last 5 or 6 days.
Well, it's not. The dew points are from the Rockies west are not bad at all. They're in the 40s and 30s, and down in Nevada and southern Utah and northern Arizona, they're in the 20s and teens. So I'm sure you'd like to see that. But just rolling the dew point loop here into next week, and we still got, we're Monday 70s, Tuesday 70s, Wednesday 70. Okay. 70s for Thursday, 70s for Friday. And then here's your glance, Joe. You got to hope that the model, lifting one of these troughs up to our west and north, the European at least is suggesting that maybe next Saturday or Sunday, as you said earlier, where you get dew points that get down to the low 60s and inland areas get down into the 50s with 50 dew points in the Great Lakes. Keep your fingers crossed on that, because we know sometimes the models like to do this only to come in less enthused is probably the way I would put it.
Yeah,
When we look at it, say several days from now, but that's the one chance you got to get maybe a break for a couple of days, only to go back up into the 70s for later next week. So it's a battle you can't win.
yeah. It's well, it's July. It's That's the month of July. You remember what was it, about 6 weeks or 8 weeks ago? We were looking at the long range from the perspective of the European, and you were talking about,
Right.
hey, the way the European is set up, we may actually have a cooler airflow than usual this summer. But again, that's what happens when you put your faith in long range outlooks.
Well,
Sometimes they
yeah,
just
it doesn't always work.
That's true. Now, Olson, not Harold Olson, who was it? I think, oh yeah, Frank Scalera. Frank Scalera on the chat board was asking about the drought monitor. Today is the day when they update. So if you give me sharing capabilities, I can bring
Yeah.
up the very latest drought monitor and show you. But really, folks, you remember I showed you the drought monitor a couple of days ago, and what I'm looking at here really is not all that much different than what we saw a couple of days ago. No, nothing dramatic in terms of changes. The only thing that might be dramatic,
Oh, you can put
uh,
the map up now.
if you can call this dramatic or noticeable, is down in Florida. Florida, I think, had more in terms of droughty conditions last Thursday on the map that we had last Thursday. Now, much of Florida is in the yellow, which indicates abnormally dry. Not really drought conditions, but abnormally dry. And the only place that really is seeing what I would call, let's say, extreme drought is this very tiny area here. Let's zoom in on Florida, and the one spot that has extreme drought in Florida would be what county is that? Oh, Palm Beach. So Palm Beach County has at this moment a D3, an extreme drought. But as you can see, most everywhere else on the peninsula, it's merely abnormally dry, and for the Panhandle, there's no drought at all. So that's looking good for Florida. And in fact, if you take a look at the entire Atlantic seaboard and going all the way back into the Midwest, most areas have no drought problems whatsoever. It's only here west of the Mississippi and the desert southwest where the drought situation runs from severe to extreme in portions of New Mexico, Arizona, southern sections of California, and also northern Idaho, northwestern sections of Montana, and a sliver or a slice of western Colorado, and also southern sections of Nevada. These are the areas that have drought issues. But as you can see, I would say right now, Joe, and this is not bad considering it's the 10th day of July, but I think right now About 70% of the country has no drought problems to speak of.
Yeah, it's in good shape for the most part. And
Yep.
actually, if you look at where it's going to be raining over the weekend and next week with the rainfall forecast from WPC, that'll take care of Florida. It'll take care of um, Illinois. It'll take care of Northwest Indiana and Eastern Ohio, and also
The
maybe do a little
lower peninsula of Michigan. Yeah.
more. Yeah, and it may also do a little work in Nebraska and South Dakota. Kind of interesting. It's hard to tell on this wide scale map. Can you bring up Texas make it a bit bigger?
Let's go to Texas.
Okay, because I'm thinking. I mean, where I'd have to we'd have to figure out what county is Kerr County. When you look at the fact that it's not that far away, that they're still in extreme drought. I mean, just to show you how localized this was. What we're talking about the tragic catastrophic flooding that happened in Carroll County uh, in Texas back on what was it? When was it again? The night of the third, going into the fourth, right?
Right.
Yeah. But you just go not too far south, and they're in exceptional drought. I mean, that's
Is that Kerr County?
yeah. Did you find
All
it?
right. Yes. That's. Come on. What happened here? Yeah, there they are. That's Kerr
So
County.
it's actually still in the box where there's like where they're showing. I mean,
That's
I don't know I don't know where it
moderate
was a
drought.
2 weeks ago. Maybe it was an exceptional drought. Now it's I guess want to call it abnormally dry, which I mean, it does sound kind of preposterous, but on
Well,
the other hand, the reason they had the big problems was because it was so bone dry that the ground was like cement and all that water just ran off. Um, Very interesting that, not too far south that you're talking about exceptional drought situations and emphasizing how localized this was.
yeah, and Kerr County itself, northwestern part is in the abnormally dry area. The rest of the county is in what is being designated as moderate drought.
Okay,
But
so there you go.
yeah.
All right, let's do a little Briller Jeopardy and wrap it up for the week, shall we?
Well, before we get into that, and I just stopped sharing here for a second, so let me just get back. I do want to read something. I posted this on my Facebook page. Yes, not yesterday, the day before, and it was a statement from um, Dr. Elbert Joe Friday. And in case you don't know who this gentleman is, he's a leader in meteorology, and for those on the Hill and in the current administration who feel that NOAA and NWS programs should be dramatically cut and eliminated, this was a statement from Dr. Friday. He was asked to comment on the staffing issues associated with the Texas floods. And here's what he had to say. He said, as the former director of the National Weather Service, he said, I certainly know why the staffing and staff structure exists and why it is important to have senior, experienced people in the organization, such as the meteorologist in charge and the warning coordination meteorologist, etc., on hand. He said, I believe the NWS did a good job with the warnings and forecasts for the recent Texas floods of July 3rd and 4th, but the loss of senior, experienced people may have made it more difficult to get the information the last mile. I put that in quote marks, last mile to the individuals in danger. He said the meteorologists in charge and the warning coordination meteorologists establish a close, professional, and frequently personal relationship with emergency managers and other local officials. They know with whom and how to get in contact with in various situations. He said, as we said in our retired directors of the NWS letter, and that was dated May 2nd, the men and women of the NWS will continue to do the very best job they possibly can, regardless of the staffing. But the long hours of overtime tires out people, reduces their sharpness. The loss of decades of experience, especially at senior level, the meteorologist in charge and the warning coordinator forecasters, that will have a negative impact on overall service. We said that we feared at that time, May the 2nd, he said we feared that these reductions would possibly lead to the loss of lives. And he finishes out, Dr. Friday did, by saying, I am afraid that this is now playing out. I posted this on my Facebook page, and naturally, you have a few morons out there who had to make commentary about that. One guy said, "Sorry, this is not objective speculation." And then he makes fun of Dr. Friday by saying, "What does he mean by the last mile?" And when I saw that, I just had to respond. And my response to this jerk was, all this transpired in the wee hours of the morning. It's one thing to post a warning, but if no local official receives the warning, it is as good as no warning being issued at all. One of the jobs of a warning coordination meteorologist is to contact local officials at any hour of the day or night and alert them to impending, potentially dangerous weather conditions. Without the warning coordinated meteorologist to, and I put this in quote marks, sound the alarm, people in the warning area are put at risk. And then I said to the jerk, I'm stunned when people like yourself say that this is, quote, not objective speculation. Dr. Friday, the man whose statement I just read, was one of this nation's most highly regarded atmospheric scientists, at one time assigned to the Pentagon, where he served as the Director of Environment and Life Sciences for the Secretary of Defense, and later served as an Assistant Administrator for the Oceanic and Atmospheric Research, as well as Director of the Board on Atmospheric Sciences and Climate at the National Academy of Science. If there's anyone who could look at this tragic situation and render an objective opinion, it is Dr. Friday. And I'm pleased to say that after I posted that in response to the jerk, I did get 6 thumbs up from other people who agreed with me on that particular point. So anyway, that's my commentary tonight on the recent tragedy, and quoting again one of the top men or top people in the field of meteorology, of the former director of the National Weather Service.
And if you want to hear my opinion on it, you can wait for the next episode of Weather Legends, because that's exactly what we talked about, the subject matter that we talked about. It's a very complex issue. I'll just say that the Weather Service did their job and they did it correctly. And the people that are coming out blaming, some of the politicians, including, I don't understand this, but apparently Senator Chris Kelly from Pennsylvania is blaming the Weather Service. I'm sorry, not from Pennsylvania, from Connecticut, is blaming the Weather Service for all of this. And the National
But he
Weather
has
Service,
nothing. The politicians have nothing else to say.
well, I know, but especially because he's from Connecticut. What is he talking about? Something that happened in Texas,
Right.
but and it's not like he's running for higher office anyway. So, but it's just I expressed my opinions earlier this week regarding the political the political scum that has come out, making this a political issue at every level, and it's not. It's not that at all. So anyway,
Tom Contino, I'm not getting political. I am a meteorologist. I am an atmospheric scientist, as Joe is. This is hurting us. I have spent more than 4 decades in this field. And when I see what has happened in the last 6 months to the science that I have devoted most of my professional life to, it pisses me off. And if you think that this is a political statement, you can just take yourself, get off the chat board, and not come back. I'm getting sick and tired of people saying, you're being political. This is not political. I'm talking about what was my life for 4 decades. And Dr. Friday placed his statement out and still got, as I said, stupidity from people after I posted that. I posted that, Joe, 2 days ago, And I said, no one is certainly going to, come after Dr. Joe Friday, former director of the National Weather Service, for saying what
And
he had
before
said.
that, he was on Dragnet, but that's another.
Yeah. I knew somebody would say that.
I was
But
waiting
but
for an
still,
opportunity. I was going to say it at the beginning, but you were already speaking. But I knew you would appreciate it that you knew I was going to go down that road.
well, dum da dum dum. But still, Joe, the thing is, I posted that and I said, certainly nobody is going to take issue with what Dr. Friday has written
Of
about
course,
this,
somebody's going
this
to take
tragedy.
issue with it,
I'm,
Joe. It just
I'm
come
so
on.
stupid. I'm so I'm
You're
so
not that.
stupid.
You're,
I'm so ignorant in the
Joe.
fact that I thought that nobody was going to make an issue of that, and still, I still had stupidity. I still had people going
Joe,
after Dr. Friday and his comments about that.
you
So
know,
it's
I've
that's
known you.
unbelievable.
I've known you for nearly 50 years. You know that I love you almost as much as I love my laundry. That being said, that being said, you have to be terribly naive to think, especially in this day and age of social media. You have to be terribly naive to think that you're not going to get somebody that's going to say something that's going to piss you off. It's just that's just you know what? I've said absolutely nothing about it other than what we talked about on Weather Legends, which I don't really think I said anything that was too controversial. I have my own opinions. Um, I did discuss. I did find out today, apparently, that there was a somebody. You know what? I better not even say this. Let's move on. Okay. Let's do Briller Jeopardy, shall we?
Yes, surely.
Okay. So average high temperatures in the where are we? Hold on. I'm trying to find this. I'll say so we're now in July. These are the average highs for these cities. Okay. Which is I guess a continuation of what we did yesterday. Honolulu, Joe.
Honolulu,
Yeah.
Honolulu. Well, a lot of people think that that's paradise and it's very warm, but it's not. It's surrounded by water, so that helps to, I think, modify the temperature. Now, one time I knew a lot about Honolulu weather. I
I
had a
know.
nice
I still have
painting.
to find your Hawaii book. I don't know where it is. I will have to find it one of these days.
The other day, absent-mindedly, I was looking for that book just simply to say, like I wonder what I was looking for a specific statistic about Honolulu, and I said, oh, wait a minute, my book on Hawaii is now down in Georgia.
Yeah.
How about 88?
WCBS New York, that is correct.
Is that
88.
it?
That's
That was the
it.
high, the average
88.
high. Ring a ding a ding. Yes.
Houston.
Houston, I will say Houston 91.
Not quite. Not quite. Uh, let's see. Hold on. It's trying to see if anybody got it yet. Yes, Frank Ard, Patrick Darcy, Chuck Cardillo, 93, Joe, 93.
Oh, I missed it by 2. But for Chuck and
Indianapolis.
everybody else, you didn't give me a chance to ring the bell for those
Oh, I'm
people.
sorry. Go ring
There
the
we
bell.
are.
Indianapolis.
Indianapolis. 86.
86. That's very close. Rich Rothmansky, and Rich Rothmansky, because he posted it twice. Rich Rothmansky twice has it at 85. 85.
There you go, Rich. When are we going to get? When are we going to
Maybe.
have Joe? When are we going to have Rich on Joe and Joe?
Well, we had him on. We'll have him on again.
When was the last time we had Rich?
Oh, back over the winter time sometime, I think it was.
See, this is what happens, folks, when you get old.
Maybe wait a minute. Maybe Rich was that was back in January. Rich, was Joe
I think
there?
now I remember. I
Okay.
remember
All
now.
right, you
Yes,
were there.
January.
All right.
January. Yes,
All
I
right. So the
remember.
next one. So
The
we'll have
mind
him
is
on.
the mind is the second thing to go,
Well,
ladies
the
and
mind is
gentlemen.
a terrible thing to lose.
Yes.
The next city is Vegas, Las.
Oh, lost wages.
Yes, lost wages.
Lost wages, Nevada. How about 96?
That's actually it's so low you could drive a Mack truck through that guess. Um, Michael McGuire at 101, that's still too low. Rothmansky does it again, 105.
105.
105.
I should be ashamed of myself. I've been to Las Vegas twice, and both times I felt like it was, well, one of those times I was like walking down the strip into a gusty like 25-mile-an-hour wind. It felt, Joe, I was walking into a
Blow
1200
dryer.
watt hair dryer.
Yeah.
Oh,
Um, and when it's not burning down, Los Angeles.
Los Angeles.
Right. You may
He
have it.
walks again by night. 90. Yeah, I'll say 90.
No, that's actually way too high.
Oh,
Now, of course, it really, LA, it really depends because if you're in the eastern part of LA versus the part that's closer to the ocean, there's a huge temperature difference. I mean, just going from LA to Burbank, it could be, 10 or 15 degrees. But the answer for LA, let's see if anybody got it. Yeah, William Uber got it, and so did Vincent Croce at 83. 83. And finally, this is a New
the
York
bonus.
yes, the bonus, and it has to do with a New York Central Park record. The most consecutive days. What is the Central Park record for the most consecutive days of 80-degree highs?
Oh, wow. You know, it's funny. I
Of
know.
80 degrees or higher, okay, consecutively.
How about that could be a high number. How about 64?
That's a great guess. It's actually very close. Why? So is Mike Waterhouse Bonsai at 63. Is even closer. That was pretty good.
Rick,
That's a really good guess.
Rick
Chuck
Carber's at
Cardillo,
64
it's
too.
Chuck Cardillo gets it at 62. 62 consecutive days from July to September 2015, and in fact, 2015 has the record for the most days of highs above 80 degrees with at 114.
Wow.
So think about that. You had 62 days in a row from July into September. Okay. You had 62 days in a row and an additional 52 days either side of that, that temperatures got above 80. So you got to think maybe, half of May. I mean, that would basically would constitute, I don't know when the numbers actually occurred, but you're talking another, almost 2 months of 80-degree highs on top of that streak. So not 2 months, I mean a month and a half on top of that streak. So amazing, an amazing feat, no doubt. Um, so there you go. We are done, I think, for the night
And done
and
for the rest of the week.
the rest of the week and going into the weekend. But we will be back Sunday night at 7:35 p.m. Eastern time. And as soon as that Weather Legends show comes out, I'll post about it. So, but it may not be out for another couple of days yet, since I'm not the producer. So I have to wait for Rich Von Olin to put it together. So everybody have a great night, a great Friday, a safe weekend, a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you Sunday night.
Good night, folks, and good
Oh,
luck.
by the way,
Oh,
Quiet John hit the tip jar tonight generously. Thank you, Quiet John. I'm sorry I didn't mention it until now, and the chairman Scott Briller just threw in some coin too into the tip jar.
I didn't see Quiet John. Thank you, Quiet John.
And we'll see everybody on Sunday. Night night.
Good night, folks.